Namaskar. Welcome to this first session of Kaivalya Upanishad. This is the first out of the two sessions on Kaivalya Upanishad. We start with the gratitude towards the Lord, with whose grace everything is possible. We also pay our respects to the Guru Parampara, the Guru Shishya lineage, through which these Upanishads, this knowledge has been protected and preserved and passed on from generations to generations. I pay my respects to my Guruji, Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn these scriptures and share this understanding with you all. Start with the prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So let us first have a brief of what is Vedanta and what is Upanishads. Vedanta is that part of the Ved which is called Vedanta. That's why it is called Vedanta. And it is said that it is the end of the Vedas. It does not mean that it is situated in the end part of the Vedas. Of course, it is within the Vedas, but it may be in midst of the Vedas or sometimes in the last part of the Vedas. But this is mainly the knowledge part of the Vedas. Vedas have typically two parts. One is called the Karma Kand, where there is the karma, all the rituals have been shown what should be done by human beings, what should not be done, Veda Vihita Karma, Veda Nishiddha Karma. But the knowledge part of the Veda is the crux or the essence of what Veda tries to tell us. What is the Vedic Vyavastha, Vedic system that we had 10,000 of years ago. And the main crux is present in these Upanishads. So Upanishad is the main crux or essence of the knowledge of the Vedic Parampara in the Vedas. And Upanishad, the word itself means Upanishada. There are three words which form Upanishads. Upa means to go close to go near. And here the essence is that we have to go close to a Guru who is learned, who can expose or show us the meaning, the hidden meaning of what is Upanishad trying to tell us. So the role of the Guru is very important. Upa means we are going closer to our own self, our Atma Swarupa. That's why it is called Upa also. That could be the other meaning of Upa. Ni means Nishchaya. That is a firm resolution, the firm determination that we want to understand our own self. Who am I? And Shada means it causes liberation, mukti, basically from this world by relieving bondage. So all these the granthis can be relieved by by this gnana, by this atma gnana which is present in the Upanishads. So there are some facts of the Upanishads and Vedanta that we must understand, that our yearning, our own desires is to be always happy. Always we want sukha, always we want shanti, peace, and we want salamati, security. We all want that we should live forever. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to be unhappy. Nobody wants to be ashanta. And that's why this is our constant yearning. But we don't know that this yearning in itself is nothing but moksha. It is nothing but mukti. So this is the gnana, and this is possible only by atma gnana. This kind of happiness. Because in the world, when we go around seeking happiness, we get very temporary happiness from the objects, that is the Vishaya Sukha. But this is also, according to Vedanta, it is also Bhranti, it is an illusion that it gives us Sukha. Actually, the nature of the Vishayas is to give Dukkha, Dukhalayam. But we feel that it is giving me a temporary Sukha, and that's why we run after these objects of the world. And here, to get this Gnana, which can lead us to the mukti or moksha, the role of the Guru is invaluable. It is just not possible to obtain this knowledge because it's a very hidden meaning, and only by proper understanding of the scriptures and the teaching, the Updesha, Guru can show us the way to this light of this knowledge by properly explaining us the meaning of each words, not just the literal meaning, that is called the Vachyartha, But from the literal meaning, the Guru will take us to the indicated meaning, the meaning which is hidden, which is called Lakshyartha, which is Lakshit, will show us that meaning which is meant by the word Jiva, Brahma, Aikya. All these meaning are quite hidden, and that's why it's very important to understand from a learned Guru. For seekers like us, the preparation of the mind and the intellect and our entire personality to receive this knowledge, it's called the Patra, has to be properly prepared to understand, to receive this knowledge. That desire to learn, which is also called Jignasa, it is also very important. The higher the Jignasa, the Tivra, the more intense the desire to learn, to know our own self, the better would be the learning and the better will be the grace of the Almighty for us to reach that goal. And this requires a long sadhana, and this sadhana we have to take help of many sadhanas. Sadhana means these are the means or the ways of reaching to this ultimate reality, ultimate Lord, or attainment of the ultimate goal of our life. And there are many sadhanas which help us: Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. All these are very important. But where these sadhanas lead us is to Antakaran Shuddhi, the purity of our inner mind, which is very important, vital before we can understand this knowledge. But finally, even after many sadhanas, the ultimate sadhana which will lead us from the liberation towards his Atmagnana, towards the self-knowledge, is Jnana. And this Atmagnana, there is only one sadhana for moksha. There is no other way we can achieve moksha or mukti from all these, the life and its cycles. So Jnana sadhana itself revolves around three important sadhanas. One is Shravana. Shravana means you have to listen to the Vedanta Vakyas, the Upanishad words, its meaning from a Guru, sitting close to the Guru. And this is the art that Guruji has learned from the parampara, from the lineage, and that's how the meaning is prasputit, or it is made clearer to the sadhaka. And then the sadhaka also has to do manana. He has to use the yukti, the logic, to understand the meaning of what all he has been, the jnana has been given to him during Shravana. And finally, Nididhyasana is the Vedantic form of meditation, which is the third sadhana, which is used to take care of the Viparit sanskaras, or which is also called the Viparyaya. So they have to be corrected, and the new sanskaras have to be created in our mind, which have been and which will help us to understand, to receive this Atma Jnana. So this is the entire sadhana. And to reach the truth, there are two paths. The first path is the path of analytical. We try to dissect. We do Vishleshana Paddhati, which is also called Vishleshana, where we try to, this is what we generally use in our scientific learning. Whatever we learn, may it be science of physics, chemistry, biology, medicine, human beings, anatomy, physiology, or even the mind, psychology, or for that matter, machines, engineering, or for that matter, computers, which is IT services. So in all these, what we do is we subclassify, classify, make types, make classifications, and this is how we go on dissecting and then learn it in the small bits and pieces. So everything is dissected into small bits, and this gives rise to a Bheda Buddhi. So every time we see differences in all the different things, this is one thing, this is the second, this is the third, and these are the differences between the two. That is how we identify the name and the form of one part or one object from the other. So this is what science uses. In contrast to this, the second path that Vedanta, Upanishads or spirituality uses is the path of unification, where it is also called samsleshanas, means from the Bheda Buddhi, from the different parts, from the differences that we have in our mind, everything, we have to go towards Abheda. Abheda means undivided one. So from all the manys, seeing the manys, we have to go towards one. So this is a completely different path that spirituality takes to take us to the divine, to the one understanding. And this is where Upanishads show us this path. But there is a difference between science and spirituality. Of course, the common thing between the both is that we have to understand the knowledge. And knowledge is the key thing, whether it is the knowledge in science or knowledge in spirituality. So knowledge is common, but the difference is in between the science and the spirituality is that science is based on understanding the knowledge of the objects, whereas spirituality is based on understanding the knowledge of the subject through which we are able to understand these objects. So that subject, that self, my own self, through which I am able to understand all the science, is that knowledge which I want to or I need to understand. So that is spirituality. Science deals with outer objects, including all the outer objects, including the body, mind, and all these are even called outer objects because these are outer to our main inner self, the I or the soul. Whereas spirituality is understanding of my real self, that is my soul, that is my Atman, that is my I, that is my ego, which has to lie there, and everything outside is called outer objects. So spirituality is the knowledge of my own self. Science relies on the evidence, and this evidence mainly is based on our eyes, what we see, what we hear, what we, so these are all the senses. This gives us this evidence by doing different experiments. Whereas spirituality is based on the evidence, is called the Shastra, is the Pramana. Shastra tells us, the Upanishads, the Vedas, they tell us what is the real understanding of this universe. Science is based on experiments. Spirituality is my own experience, that is my aparoksha, my assimilated experience after I understand this knowledge. When the knowledge gets atmasada, it gets assimilated into my life and it gives me a different perspective or different understanding of my life, and that is my own experience. So spirituality relies on this highest form of evidence. And science is transferred by books, nowadays by internet, through a lot of digital media, whereas spirituality is transferred through this lineage of the Guru Shishya Parampara, the art of handling the words, so that in the mind of the real eligible Shishya, the meaning will become clear, and that is the art of handling these words. So that is how the spiritual knowledge is transmitted from generations. Science, it could be said that it is easy, common, and a lot of people are understanding this science, but spiritual knowledge, the real knowledge of the I, is unique. It is very different. It is rare for somebody to understand it completely. So very few people are enlightened, or we can say they are wise to understand this spiritual knowledge. So with this, let us start with the Upanishads. So there are originally more than 1100 Upanishads, originally more than 5000 years ago, even some of the more than 10,000 years ago. But finally today we have about 350 are available today. Many of them have become lupta, they have become, unknown to us. Out of these, there are 10 main Upanishads, and these are the Upanishads on which Adi Shankaracharya ji has written his commentaries, his bhashya, and in his grantha called Brahma Sutra, which is also one of the main Vedanta granthas, which is called Prasthantrayi, one of the granthas which consists of 555 sutras. All the important principles of Vedanta, all the principles that are present in these 10 Upanishads are given in this Brahma Sutra. Kaivalya is the 11th Upanishad in which Shankaracharya ji did not write a bhashya, but still it is present in the Atharva Veda, because most of the Upanishads are present in one of the 4 Vedas. But it's a very beautiful, concise Upanishad consisting of 24 shlokas, and it can be memorized, and the part or the parayan of these Upanishads can be done, which has a great value. That is what our Guruji tells us. Essentially, Kaivalya Upanishad is a dialogue between Guru, who is Brahmaji, Lord Brahma is the Guru, and Ashwalayana Rishi is the Shishya, is the disciple. Ashwalayana Rishi is a Rigveda Acharya, is a very learned Shishya, and these are the types of Shishyas who are the real eligible to obtain this Atma Jnana. Kevala, the word Kevala itself means one in Sanskrit. So here Upanishads talk of the oneness of everything, and the last sentence of this Upanishad is Kaivalyam Phalam Ashruta Iti. So one attains the fruits of mukti or liberation, that is the phala of Kaivalyam attains oneness, which gives us, the liberation or moksha. So that is the fruit of this Upanishad. And it is customary to start all the Upanishads, Adhyayana or the study of the Upanishads by Shanti mantra. So before every Upanishad there is a Shanti mantra. Say for example, Ishavasya Idam Sarvam, it is a Ishavasya Upanishad. It has a Shanti mantra of Om Purna Mada Purna Midam Purnat Purna Mudachyate. That is a Shanti mantra there. And Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam is how it starts. So that is the first line of Ishavasya Upanishad. Whereas Kaivalya, the Shanti mantra is Om Bhadram Karnebihi Shrunuyam Devaha. And the main purpose of the Shanti mantra are two. One is to create Shanti, because a lot of vigna, a lot of obstacles would come along whenever we start any such studies of the Vedas or Upanishads. We all of us have a lot of our own responsibilities in the worldly life. That's why many types of pratibandha or obstacles can come along the way. So to avoid these obstacles, to create Shanti, the Trivida Shanti of we say at the end of every Shanti mantra we speak Om Shanti 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 3 times. So this is the to quieten all the 3 types of obstacles: Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, and Adi Adhyatmika hurdles. So all these hurdles can be quietened by this Shanti mantra. The other is that in the Shanti mantra we pray to different devatas, because it is said that it is understood that the devatas help us on this path, on the spiritual path. There are several devatas who are there who can help us and guide our spiritual path. So there is, to get the grace, we pray to all these devatas, because apart from whatever sthula sharira and sthula jagata that we see around us, there is an immense sukshma sharira and sukshma jagata. And these sukshma sharira, like the mind, the intellect, the senses, all the sukshma things that we have within us, and the sukshma jagata, this adhisthana devatas are there, like Pavana Devata for Pavana, and Surya Devata, all these Indra and a lot of other devatas that govern this. So to get their grace, we pray to them during the Shanti mantras. So let us start with this Shanti Patha of Kaivalya Upanishad. Om Bhadram Karnebihi Shrunuyam Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshabhirya Jatraha Stirairangaihi Stushtuvan Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashavaha Swasti na Usha Vishwavedaha Swasti na Starksho Arishtanemi Swasti no Bruhaspatir Dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So let us understand what this Shanti part tells us. O Devas, may what we hear with our ears be auspicious. So that is what Karnebihi Shrunuyam Devaha. So we pray to our Devas that whatever we hear is good. We must have that kind of a vivek. Whatever we are listening to should be Sattvika, not Rajasika or Tamasika. O protector of the Lord, protector Lord, may we see with our eyes what is auspicious, because what we see in our day-to-day life, the way we see it is also very important. So may God give us that strength to see whatever is good for us. We have to take that discretion of what we should see and what we should not see. Bestow us with the healthy organs. Stira Angaihi. Angai means all the organs of our body, and our body should be healthy, because the body is the best sadhana for us to do this adhyatmic journey or spiritual journey. So we pray to you for the satisfaction Tustuvan Sastanubihi, so that all the devatas are satisfied and bestow us with good health and good organs, so that they all function well for our spiritual progress. Vyashema Deva Hitam Yadayuhu. May we utilize whatever is our remaining life. Yad Ayuhu. Whatever is my remaining life, I spend in Deva Hitai. Deva Hitai means for the happiness of the Devas. So I pray to the Lord for their happiness, and so that I can utilize my life in the Bhagavata Sambandhi in relation to the Lord or the Devatas. Swastina Indro Vruddhashavaha. May Indra, whose glory is all pervading, bestow us well-being on us. So this is a prayer to the Lord Indra. Similarly, Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha. May Sun God, who is all knowing, because whenever sun rises, everybody starts their own activities. So sun illuminates and shows us everything, all the objects, bestow well-being on us. There is a prayer for Tarksha. Tarksha means Garuda. Garuda is the vehicle of the Lord Vishnu, whose flight is unstoppable. Arishtanemi. They just go at a very high speed. So similarly, we pray to the Lord so that our spiritual journey also becomes like this, unstoppable, and there may not be obstacles on our spiritual path. So that is the prayers to the Lord. And Swastino Bruhaspati Dadatu. So may Bruhaspati is a devata of the intellect, the buddhi, because on this path, on the spiritual path, we need very focused, very sharp and sukshma, very subtle intellect. Because most of the times we have a very sthula intellect. We see whatever we can see, whatever we cannot see, we are not able to comprehend in our mind. And we try again and again, we give logic to make it clear or try to understand what we cannot see. But our own experiences tell us that there are many things that we cannot see, but still it is a reality. Say for example, I see that the earth is flat, but the earth is round in reality. I see every day that the sun rises and the sun sets, but the reality is that the sun does not move, the earth is moving around the sun. My experience is that I am steady on the earth, but I know that the earth rotates on its own axis at a rate of 1000 miles an hour to take complete one rotation in 24 hours. The earth goes around the sun in 365 days and moves at the rate of 1000 miles an hour. So this is the movement at which I am moving. But my experience is that I am steady on this earth. So there is a lot of discordance between what I experience, what I see, and what is the reality. And that's why I must have that kind of an intellect which will allow me to see something that I cannot see, and which allows me to have a vision which the Guruji and the Upanishads is going to tell me. So this is the kind of the intellect that I am seeking from Lord Bruhaspati. Om Shanti 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 is the quietening of the Trivida obstacles, the Adibhautika. Adibhautika means in this seen world, we have a lot of all the beings. Sometimes when we want to do satsanga, shravana, and suddenly some guests come up and our spiritual journey gets disturbed. So all these obstacles which are unwanted on our spiritual path, which come from the Adibhautika Jagata, from these different beings, is called the Adibhautika Tapa. Something that comes from the Adidaivika, something like natural disasters, sometimes floods or fire or a lot of other volcanoes, eruptions, a lot of other natural disasters can come and disturb our path towards the spiritual path. That is called the Adidaivika Tapa, which also we want to quieten or shama. And the third is the Adhyatmika. Adhyatmika means related to our body, some of the diseases, some mind problems, some disturbances, some stresses which comes in our body, mind, and all these are called Adhyatmika Tapa. So from this Trivida, three types of Tapa, we want Shanti, and that's why we pray to the Lord. So now we start with the first shloka. The first word is Atha. Atha means thereafter. And thereafter what? After what? So thereafter means after getting the Adhikaritva. Adhikaritva means the eligibility for getting this Atma Jnana. And the eligibility for getting this Atma Jnana is Antakarana Shuddhi, the purity of the inner mind, which is the most important. And this can only be achieved by what in Vedanta is called as Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. So Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti is, there are 6 types of this Sampatti which are called Shamadi Shat Sampatti. Now here the Shama is the first one, which means Mana Nigraha, mind must be under control. Second is Dhamma means Indriya Sanyama, which is the senses control, because sense is the ones, all the Chakshu Indriya, all the Shrotra Indriya, Ghana, Tvacha, Rasa, all these which connect with our outer world and get all the Gnana, all the Bhoga. So these are the senses, and they are very, very chanchala, so we have to quieten them. The mind also is very bahirmukha, chanchala, so we need to have control over the mind. Uparati, unnecessary vyavahara. We try to do lots of things in our life which are many of them are unnecessary. So from these unnecessary things we have to upram, means we have to nivrut ourselves, we have to come back, we have to stop, we have to say no, learn to say no to unnecessary things. Only then we can go on this spiritual journey. Titiksha, sahanashilta. We know that this world is made up of dualities, dvandva. So today there may be sukha, tomorrow there may be dukkha, today there may be very hot, tomorrow it will be very cold, today it will be, fame, tomorrow there may be ninda or some criticism. So all these dualities are there in the world, which we must take it in the right perspective. We must sahan karna, matlab we must have endurance to get over these dualities of the world. We must have Shraddha in the Guru, in the Shastra, Vedanta, and in our own self. We must have Atma Shraddha also. So all this Shraddha is very important on the path. And Samadhana. Samadhana means Chitta Ekagrata. Our focused mind, so that it can do some meditation, it can focus on one aspect, one area. Because in the world, the mind works as it goes from different, doing multitasking, and that is how the mind works in the world. But when it comes to the inner journey, the spiritual journey, we have to have a mind which will have a focus on one particular subject or one particular tattva, because here we need to understand that tattva. So that's why these are the 6 types of sampatti which are very essential for any sadhaka to go on to this path. And only after a relatively Shuddha, not of course completely Shuddha, because Vedanta itself will purify us, will make us Shuddha. So a relative amount of Shuddhi is necessary to start on this path. Relatively little bit amount of Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha and Samadhana is necessary. But as we progress on this path, we get a Guru, we find a Guru who explains us this Shastras, we understand them, and then Antakarana becomes more and more Shuddha. So this is how we become Adhikaritva for the Atma Jnana. So that is the Atha, the word of the Atha Shabda, that we become Adhikaritva. Om Athashvalayano Bhagavantam Parameshtinam Upasamityo Vacha Adhihi Bhagavan Brahma Vidyam Varishtam Sada Satvihi Sevyamanam Nikudham Yaya Chirat Sarva Papam Vyapokya Parat Param Purusham Yati Vidwan. So this is the first shloka. Om is the auspicious name of the Lord. It is the Ekakshari name of the Lord, which denotes not just the Saguna Bhagavana, but also the Nirguna Paramatma. Atha we have already known thereafter, Adhikaritva, after Antakarana Shuddhi by Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. Bhagavantam is, we tell the Guru, O Lord, so we call and equate Guru as Ishvara. So that is how we must have that kind of a respect, that reverence for the Guru, to whom we go with folded hands and with Samit Pani, with Suki Lakdi ke saath. It is said that we go to the Guru to get Jnana, so that we don't have our ego, ahankara, so that when the Guru ignites the spark of this knowledge, we are able to, just like a Suki Lakdi, just like a dry wood, it will immediately accept fire, and that light of that knowledge will burn in our own self. So that is how we have to pray to the Guruji, so that Guru is equal to Ishvara in our Shastra Parampara. Ashvalayana Parameshtinam Upasamityo Vacha. So sage Ashvalayana, who is a Rigveda Acharya, very learned disciple, goes to Lord Brahmaji and asks and says. So that is what it means. Adihi Bhagavo Brahma Vidyam Varishta. He says, by your grace, please teach me the knowledge of the Brahma Vidya, the Atma Vidya, Varishtam. Varishtam means which is the highest knowledge. There is no higher knowledge than this. Narada, Bhagavan also says that he has all the knowledge, but if he does not have Atma Vidya, then there is all other knowledge are useless. So this is the highest form of knowledge, because it is the basis of all the knowledge. That's why it is the highest form of knowledge. Sada Satbihi Sevyamanam Nigudam. So it is being purely pursued constantly by the noble ones, the Satbihi, the Sat Purusha, the good, the noble people. They Sada, they Sevyamanam, they pursue them constantly, they learn about them, they recite them, they talk about it. And which is Nigudam. Nigudam means which is the most secret form of knowledge, which is the most Nigud, which is something that is not commonly available. Everybody does not know this. It is very secretive. And that is what is the highest form of knowledge. Yayachirat sarva papam vyapohya paratparam purusham yati vidwan. This is Yaya achirat sarva papam vyapohya. So by which knowledge the man gets liberated from all the evils, all the papa, vyapohya, and before long. Achirat means does not take time, immediately. So the knowledge is so powerful that it will shuddhi karega, wo all the papa, all the nivrutta ho jayega. Vyapohya means it destroys all the papa, but here destroy doesn't mean that it destroys it. Actually, papa, punya, we all have to bhoga. We have to bhugatna padega, only then it will get destroyed. So we get liberated from all these papa and achirat. Immediately, what we will develop, the wise person, Vidwan, after getting this knowledge, after knowing this Atmagnana, Brahmagnana, Paratpara Purusham Yati, he will attain, he will know the Supreme Self, the Brahma, the highest Self, which is Paratpara, Para, Sebi Para. So that means it is beyond the Maya, because Para is Maya. Maya is also invisible, it is called Para, because one is whatever we see. Beyond this is something that the Maya, which is invisible, and beyond the Maya is Paratpara, which is Brahma, because Maya is also ashrit to Brahma. So that is the highest self, the highest divinity, the supreme self, the Brahma. That is what the wise person will achieve. That is the phala, or that is the fruit of knowing this knowledge, that we will attain the Brahma. The second shloka, Tasmai sahovacha pitamahascha Shraddha bhakti dhyana yogadavaihi. So here, for Ashwalayan Rishi, now Lord Brahmaji is started. He is speaking because he was asked by Ashwalayan Rishi to give him the Brahma Jnana. So he says, Brahmaji says, Shraddha bhakti dhyana yoga adavaihi. May you know that Brahma by resorting to. It says three things: Shraddha, Bhakti, and Dhyana. Faith, devotion, and meditation. Now, faith is very, very important, and that is, Shraddha is the basis of all these Atmagnana or this sadhana, because we have to go from what we see to what we have not seen, from what we know currently to what we have not known. So, this is the journey. This is something which is new for us. It is something that we have not yet understood well, we have not yet known well. Our sanskaras that we have are very different from where we have to go, what is the goal. And that's why Shraddha in Vedanta, in Upanishads, in Bhagwan, in the Guru, and Atma Shraddha. All this Shraddha is very important in this journey, which is from the known to the unknown. We are not known what we have to go. And that's why we need the help of the Guru, we need the help of the Vedanta Shastra. And what it is going to tell us is sometimes quite contrary to our own experience. I believe that I am this body, I am this name, I am this form, I am this name, I have born, I have my birthdays, I am going to die one day. This is what I believe. Vedanta or Upanishad tells me that I am not born, I am unborn, I don't never die, I don't undergo any changes, I am imperishable. So it gives me something which I don't know. It is very contradictory. And that's why we need to have that Shraddha till we understand this and we progress on this path. The second is Bhakti. Bhakti is very important because here where we have to go is towards the divinity. And towards divinity, if we have to connect to the divine, then we have to have some kind of a respect, love, and surrender to the Lord. And this love, respect, and surrender to the Lord is nothing but Bhakti or devotion. So towards God we must have this Bhakti, and equally we must have Bhakti and devotion and love for our Guruji also, who is giving us this teachings or Uddesha. So this kind of Bhakti is very important. And the third is Dhyana. Dhyana is meditation. Now meditation can be Saguna Bhagwana ka Dhyana, or it could be Nirguna Dhyana, where we meditate on the Tattva, the Brahma, which is also called Nididhyasana. Dhyan also means that we must be very aware, because this path is a path of awareness, Sajagata. We have to have constant awareness at every point of time as a seeker, so that we don't get into a situation where we thought, oh my God, I never thought I'll reach this place. So whatever we do, there must be a good thought which has been given before we do whatever karma that we are going to do. So these are the three Sahakari sadhanas, or the complementary sadhanas for the Jnana. These are not the Sakshat sadhana or the Mukhya sadhana for Jnana. When Ashwalayana Rishi asks to Brahmaji for a Brahma Jnana, Brahmaji starts by giving him the Sahakari sadhana, the complementary sadhana, doesn't talk about the main sadhanas which are Shravana, Manana and a Nididhyasana for Atma Jnana. The reason is because for most seekers, they have to go through the process of Shuddhi of the Antakarana to become eligible for the Atma Jnana. So these three sadhanas will help us, and this sadhana itself is a long sadhana to actually develop Antakarana Shuddhi, to become pure at our inner mind, to let go of all our vasanas, all our Ashuddha desires, and to become pure is the most important part of the sadhana. And a lot of time, not only a lot of time, but many, sometimes many janmas, many births goes in this Shuddhi. And after Shuddhi, the Jnana sadhana is not that, does not take that much time. That's what our Guruji tells us, that it is, that's why it says Achirat, that immediately we can, get to this Jnana sadhana and ultimately accept or understand his Atma Jnana. In the third shloka, Brahmaji says how we cannot achieve this Atma Jnana. Na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyage naike amrutatva manashuhu parena nakam nihitam guhayam viprajate yadyatayo vishanti. So here's Brahmaji says how moksha cannot be achieved. He says na karmana. Moksha cannot be achieved by the rituals, by karma, by activities. Because activities by itself has anitya phala. Because it is all in the anatma kshetra. It is not in the atma kshetra, which is akarma. Activities, all the karma happens in the anatma kshetra, and that's why it is anitya. And that's why the phala that this karma can lead us is to Shuddhi, Antakarana Shuddhi, Karmayoga can lead us to that phala. But it cannot lead us to Atma Jnana. So this Atma Jnana cannot be achieved by karma. So we may be doing lots of activities, but activity itself cannot lead us to moksha. That is very clear. Second is na prajaya. Prajaya means progeny or our children. Our children can help us to expedite our spiritual journey, can take us to many pilgrimages. They can do a lot of things, but that itself can help us to purify our mind, but that cannot help us to achieve to the Atma Jnana. And the third thing is na dhanena. It is very clear that money itself or wealth itself cannot lead us to Atma Jnana or moksha. Otherwise, all the wealthy and the billionaires and all the the Forbes top millionaires would be having Atma Jnana. But dhanena, money itself, wealth has its own limit beyond which it cannot give us this Atma Jnana, and that is where we have to yearn as a seeker and go on this path on the spiritual journey to get Atma Jnana. And how it can be obtained, Brahmaji says, Tyagena eke amrutatvam anashuhu, means by tyaga, by renunciation, by giving away. A few seekers, some of the seekers, someone has attained this amrutatva. This amrutatva means this immortality or this tattva which is immortal. And vairagya is what is tyaga. So vairagya is one of the mukhya sadhana, is one of the main sadhana of Atma Jnana. Because on this journey, when we go on this journey, in the worldly journey, we want to achieve more and more. It is more of lobha. We want to achieve more wealth, we want to achieve more name, we want to achieve more fame, we want to achieve everything more. We want to accumulate, hold a lot of things. But on the spiritual path, when we go, it's an inner journey, and here we have to actually, give away a lot of things. We have a lot of unnecessary things with layers, our misunderstandings, a lot of things we have to give away. So a lot of my misconceptions, and finally later on my ego has to be surrendered. Tyaga is one of the most important ways where I have to leave, I have to give away, I have to let go, and only if I let go then I can progress on this path. Because this is not a path of accumulation, this is a path of leaving. Because a lot of around even my own Atma Swarupa or my own self, there are many layers. And these layers have to be let go gradually, it has to be let go. Only then I can reach to that ultimate Atma Swarupa, which is my own real self. Parena nakam nihitam guhayam viprajate yadyatayo vishanti. So Parena Nakam means which is happiness which is beyond that of heaven. So when having said this, Nakam means heaven. Kam is Sukha, Nakam, Na Akam is Dukha, and Nakam is again Sukha, that happiness which is then Parena means beyond the heaven, beyond the other lokas. So that kind of happiness says Nihitam Guhayam. That is not something outside. That is not something above the heaven, but it is hidden within our own self. It is hidden in our own heart. It is an inner journey. We have to go within our own self, and that is where we have to reach to find this Tattva. Yat Vibhrajate, where it illuminates. It illuminates means it shows us. It is the knower of everything. It illuminates everything, its own self and everything outside us. Yatayah Vishanti means, Yataha means one who seeks, one who makes efforts, one who does prayatna. That is the person who will be able to finally achieve this. Vishanti means he will achieve or attain this immortal self, the moksha, which is the ultimate goal of his Atmajnana. So that is how we have to look for it in our own self, which is a self-illuminating tattva, that's the Atma, and that we only with after having done a lot of efforts we can reach and achieve this. Vishanti means we don't have to go anywhere, but actually it's a praptasya prapti. We already are that, but we have to know. By knowing only we will achieve. That is the understanding. So this is essentially an inner journey, and the efforts of the seeker, Yataya, the efforts of the seeker, the prayatna is extremely vital on this path. Only with my prayatna, karma is important, but finally the grace of the Lord will help us to reach to this Atmajnana. Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitarthaha Sannyasa Yogat Yataya Shuddha Sattvaha Te Brahmalokeshu Paranta Kale Paramruta Parimujjanti Sarve. So what kind of seekers can achieve this immortal self or the moksha? So here it says Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitartha. One seeker, those who have determined what is the Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchita Artha, means what is the essence of the meaning of the Vedanta and the Upanishada. So that is the first, the assimilated essence of the Vedantic knowledge. That is the first meaning of this word. The second meaning of this word, our Guruji says, is that the same essence a seeker has established as his life goal. So the seeker has not only understood what is the essence of the Vedanta, understanding the knowledge, and this essence of the Vedanta is essentially my life goal. He has determined with firm resolve that this is my ultimate goal. So that is the Aham Brahmasmi, that the Jeev Brahma Aikya, which is the essence of the Vedantic knowledge, or becomes my own life goal. Ultimately, that seeker is the person who is eligible to achieve this Atmajnana. And then Sannyasa Yogat Yataha Shuddha Sattvaha, by renunciation. Renunciation means sannyasa. Sannyasa does not mean outer sannyasa, that just giving away your clothes, leaving the house, going away to the hermitage, being a hermit, wearing saffron clothes. That is not what the Lord thinks is sannyasa. Even in Bhagavad Gita, the true artha of the sannyasa is explained that sannyasa is in the mind. We have to give tyaga or renunciation to our kartrutva, our karma phala. This we have to sannyasa. So we have to become a karma yogi and do sannyasa of the karma phala and kartrutva. And with this we achieve, by karma yoga we achieve the purity of our inner mind. With bhakti we develop more of sthirta, chanchala, man becomes more quiet, and that's why it becomes more shuddha. So only with this we can attain that Atmajnana. Without this shuddhi or inner purity, we cannot achieve this Atmajnana. And te Brahma Lokeshu Paranta Kale Paramruta Parimuchyanti Sarve. So they means that seeker who has achieved this shuddhi, he has achieved this gnana. So at Paranta Kale means for the gnani, when it comes at the time of his death, he develops what is called as the Videha Mukti. So during this life, he gets his Atmajnana and he becomes one with the Brahma, and this is called Jivan Mukti. So he becomes Jivan Mukta. All his karma comes to an end. The same Gnani, when his life or his body comes to an end, the Sukshma Sharir gets dissolved in the Brahma, his Sthul Sharir comes to an end, the Jeev Bhav is not there, so the Jeev Gati is not there, it does not go and take another body, and his Adhisthana, Chaitanya, becomes one with the with the Sarvavyapak Brahma Chaitanya. So this is called Videha Mukti for the Gnani. And Paramrutat Parimuchanti Sarve, the another meaning of this word is that Sadhya Mukti. That is another form of Mukti. This is called Sadhya Mukti, which is the instant Mukti. After Gnana, the Mukti or the Moksha that we get is Sadhya Mukti. But there is another form of Mukti which is called Krama Mukti, where the Bhakta after Upasana goes to Brahma Loka, and from there he does Upasana, and at the end of the Kalpa, when the Brahmaji gives him the knowledge, he attains the moksha or mukti. So this is the Krama Mukti. So there are both the meanings can be here, Sadhya Mukti or Krama Mukti of Brahma Lokeshu Parantakale Paramrutat Parimuchanti Sarve. So essentially everybody achieves moksha, all this. Vivitta deshe cha sukhasanastha shuchi samagriva shariraha atyashramastha sakalendriyani nirutya bhaktya swagurum pranamya. So here this talks about the Vedantic meditation, because dhyana is also a very important part of this sadhana. The Vedantic meditation is called Nididhyasana. This helps us to achieve the knowledge which has been acquired by Shravana, but which does not become aparoksha because of Viparyaya. Viparyaya are Viparit Sanskara, the opposite sanskaras of Anatma, of the body, mind and the senses that we have very strongly rooted in our own self, that I am this body, I am this name, I am this form. All these are very firmly rooted. So these Viparit Sanskara have to be neutralized by the new sanskaras, and that is what the dhyana does. And this is the Vedantic meditation. So Vivitta Deshe means in a secluded place. We have to sit in a secluded place for meditation. Sukhasanastha, where we are seated in a comfortable posture. Sukhasana means that we must be in a posture where we can sit for at least 45 minutes to 1 hour in a comfortable posture with purity. Shuchi means purity, not just the outer purity. We may have taken a snana, our clothes must be shuddha, but that place also must be shuddha. We must have an asana. And then the inner purity, we must not think about anything else, about the outer objects or the Vishaya, but think about the Atma. And Samagriva Shariraha, keeping the neck, head and the body in a one straight line. Samagriva, Griva means Loka, Shira means Shari, and Sharira. Shira means the head. So head, neck and body all in a straight line. Atyashramastha. Atyashramastha means we should rise above all the ashramas, all the 4 ashramas that we live. You may be a child in the Brahma ashrama or in a Grahastha ashrama or Vanprastha ashrama, but during meditation we don't have to think about our duties of our ashrama, that I have to do this, I have to do that. We have to go become Atyashramastha. We have to think that we are not in this ashrama and we transcend these ashramas. Sakalendriyani nirutya, by restraining all our sense organs. We should not keep thinking about what we have to do, what is our today's agenda, or anything about our outer objects or all the objects, but we should try to restrain all our sense organs and start our meditation with Bhaktya Swagurum Pranamya. We should, before the meditation, pray to our own Guru and the Lord to get their blessings, so that with devotion our meditation becomes, nirvigna, it becomes without obstacles and becomes successful. So this is how we start our meditation process. Then it tells us what we have to do in the meditation. Ratpundarikam virajam vishuddham vichintya madhye vishadam vishokam. Ratpundarikam means we have to concentrate at the center of the lotus heart. That is the chakra, and this is Antakarana or our inner self. Vichinta madhye, wherever it is there, we need to meditate there. Virajam, which is devoid of all the rajas. Raja, there is no Raja in this, it is all very sattvic, it is very Shuddha. It is Vishuddham, which is very pure, it is devoid of all the incessant desires, thoughts, anger, Kama, Krodha, all these Asuri Sampatti are not there. It is a very Shuddha, pure Vishadam, which is very crystal clear. It is very clear because it reflects everything that is there. It is like a mirror, and it is Vishokam. It is devoid of all the Shoka, it is devoid of all the sorrows. Our own Atma Tattva is devoid of all this. It is eternal bliss. It is Ananda Swarupa. That's why there is no Lesh Matra bhi, koi Dukkha, Shoka is not there in our Pundarikam Vichinta Madhya. So this is where we have to concentrate on during meditation, our inner self. So dhyana or meditation are of different types. The first is what is called as a Nirguna Dhyana, the Chaitanya Swarupa, our Atma Swarupa. And this is called the Vedantic meditation called Nididhyasana. Now, this sometimes can be difficult for us to achieve from the beginning, and that's why other types of meditation are also described. The second is the Vishwarupa Prabhu Dhyana. That means that we think that Lord is the entire universe manifesting in all the different ways as His Vibhutis, and God is in Ananta Rupa, in very different ways He manifests, and one God appears as many forms in this universe. So this is that Virat Swarupa or the Vishwarupa, which Lord has described in Bhagavad Gita, and that is where we can pray and we can do meditation. And the third meditation, which is very commonly done for most people, which is easier for us to attain, is the Saguna Dhyana. So Dhyana of one Ishvara, our Ishta Devta, that is the name and the form Lord. It could be Krishna, it could be Ram, it could be Shiva, it could be Devi, it could be Ganesha, it could be anything. Whatever, in whomever we have Shraddha, we have faith and we have bhakti, we should, but essentially it is good to begin from Saguna, but that is not the ultimate Swarupa of the God, because God cannot be limited to one name and one form or one place, because Bhagavana is Desha, Kala, Vastu, Samaya, Parichin, Aparichinna, cannot be limited by the place, by the time, or by the objects, because God is everywhere. God is limitless. He is all pervasive, omniscient, omnipresent. And that's why from Saguna we have to go towards the Virata Rupa or the Vishwarupa Darshana, and finally from there we have to go to Nirguna, Nirakara, unmanifest, the divine form, which is the ultimate form of the Lord, which Lord says. So during meditation, this is how we can travel. Again, in the meditation, what we have to do is our anatma sanskaras, we have to convert it into atmakar vritti or sanskaras, and that is what we have to do during meditation. That is the main crux of the Vedantic meditation. And ultimately what it does, the phala that it does is that whatever is my paroksha jnana in my intellect during Shravana Kala, whatever I have heard from the Guruji, the Vedanta, Upanishads, all the crux or the essence, I have to assimilate in my self, in my inner being, so that it comes out in my life. It becomes manifest, or it becomes assimilated knowledge. It becomes aparoksha, atmajnana. So for this also meditation is very important, because it will change the sanskaras that are there within me. Achintam avyaktam ananta rupam shivam prashantam amrutam brahmayonim tamadi madhyanta vihinam ekam vibhum chidanandam arupam adbhutam. So again, meditating on the Brahma Tattva, you can see here that Bhagavana talks about in different shlokas, talks about different forms of meditation, sometimes Nirguna Tattva, sometimes Vishwarupa Darshana, sometimes Saguna Dhyana. All these dhyana are described here. So here the meditation is on the Nirguna Tattva, the Brahma Tattva, which is Achintyam, which is incomprehensible because it is inconceivable. It is not an object of the mind or the words. Words or mind cannot describe it. Cannot be thought about by, because it is so vast. It is so all pervasive. It is something inconceivable by human mind, which is Anchit. That's why it is called Achintyam. Achintyam. Achintayam means it cannot be Chintayan. We cannot think about it. Avyaktam. Avyaktam means it is not manifest. It cannot be seen. It is not an object of the senses, because neither it can be seen, nor it can be heard, neither it can be smelled, neither it can be felt. So it is completely unmanifest. But it does not mean that it is abhava or it is absent. Just like, say for example, wind or whatever, we cannot see it, but it is still there. We can feel it. Similarly, this tattva is something which we cannot see, but it does not mean that it is not there, because it is our own aparoksha swarup, our own experience. We always have bhava of our experience. We always feel that yes, I am. I never feel that I am not there or I am मेरा अभाव है, ऐसा feeling कभी मुझे नहीं होता है. So that is my aparoksha anubhava. That means that I am there. Even if I close my eyes, I cannot see myself, but even then I feel that I am there. मेरा अभाव कभी मुझे feel नहीं हो रहा है. So that is the aparoksha anubhav that the Atma Swarupa gives us. Ananta Rupam. It is manifested in different forms. It is limitless. It is not limited by its space, time, objects. It is all pervasive. It is ever present. It is always present. It is Sarvatra. It is Sarvagna. It is Sarvakala. It is Sarvarupa. So it is there in all the objects. Behind all the objects, it is there in the form of Asti Bhati Priya. It is beyond the space because it is Sarvatra. It is everywhere. It does not have a past, present or the future. It has always been there. It is at all the times. It is there. Sarvatra. It is Sarvatra all the time. It is there. It is not that it is never present in some time, or it is not. It will not be present in the future. So it is always there. And it is Shivam. Shivam means auspicious, Mangalkari. It is because of which everything is pious. Prashantam, eternally blissful, tranquil. Prashanta. And Amrutam, it is immortal. It is not limited by time. It is always there. Trikala Abhadita. It is neither born nor does it have end, does not die. So that is what Najayate, Namriyate, what Bhagavan says in Gita Ji. That is the same Tattva. And it is Brahma Yonim, one which is the cause for the universe. It is a Yoni from where all the beings are born and from where all the beings are, they assimilate or they dissolve. So that is the Brahma Yoni. Tamadhimadhyanta vihinamekam vibhum chidanandam arupam adbhutam. So Tama is Adi Madhya Anta Vihinam, which is this Tattva, this Chaitanya is without the beginning, middle and end, because it has no birth, it has no change, there is no destruction, there is no death. And it is Ekam, it is only one, it is non-dual. Ekam Advitiyam, it is Vibhum, it is very, very Vyapta, very pervading, it is all pervading, it manifests in different forms, and it is Chidananda Swarupa, it is all knowing, it is the knowledge, because it illuminates everything, and it is the Ananda Swarupa, bliss Swarupa, because it is complete in all respects. There is no Shoka, there is no Dukkha in this Swarupa, and it is Arupam. Arupam means it is formless. It is very important to think during meditation that we should not ascribe any form, any light, any divinity to any of these forms, because the real divinity is formless, it is unmanifest, it is Nirguna, it is Nirakara. So it is Adbhutam, because it is a wonder. In Gitaji, Bhagavan Krishna says it is Ashcharyavat Pashtati Kaschidenam Ashcharyavat Vadati Tathaiva Chanya. So it is, everything is Ashcharyavat. Here it is a wonderment because we cannot see it, but because of which everything can be seen. We cannot hear it, but because of this everything can be heard. It is the one force because of which everything works. So it is something like a wonderment, how it is possible that though it has its presence everywhere, nobody is able to see that Tattva. So that is a wonderment, it is Ashcharya that about this Tattva. Uma Sahayam Parameshwaram Prabhum Trilochanam Neelakantham Prashantam Dhyatva Munir Gacchati Bhutayonim Samasta Sakshim Tamasa Parastar. In this shloka describes the meditation of the form, the Shiva meditation, Uma Sahayam. Uma Sahayam means along with Uma. Now the word Uma has three meanings. One is Brahma Vidya. Second, the word meaning of Uma is Maya. And the third is Uma means also Parvati or Amba. So these are the three words. So along with this, Parameshwaram, Parameshwara Shiva is called Mahadeva, is the Lord of all the Devas. Prabhum, Prabhum is the supreme overlord, is a ruler, because he not only creates, maintains this universe, but is the Karmaphala Data for all the Jivas. He is a Karmadhyaksha. He sees all the karma of all the Jivas and then accordingly gives them Karmaphala Data. Is Trilochanam. He is having three eyes, and we know that Lord Shiva has the third eye, which is called the Chakshu, which is called the Jnana Chakshu, because it is the eye of the divine knowledge, the eye of the divinity, because the two Chakshus are the eyes of the duality for the world, but the third Chakshu is the eye for divinity. Neelakantham, he has a blue throat, and we know this Samudra Manthan story where there was Visha or this poison had come from the Samudra Manthana, and Lord Shiva had come and he drank, and by that time Parvati held his neck, and the poison was concentrated in the neck, and that's why his throat became blue. So he was Neelakantham, that is how he is called now. Prashantam, he is a very tranquil Swarupa, very, very blissful, because he is always in meditation, very quiet, that is the Swarupa of Shiva. Dhyatva munir gacchati bhuta yonim samasta sakshim tamasah parastha. So Dhyatva means in this way, once we meditate on Lord Shiva, munir gacchati. Munihi means the meditator who achieves the ultimate benefit of the meditation, because he becomes gacchati means praptasya prapti, he becomes one with the Brahma. Bhuta yonim, the Brahma, he is the source of all the beings, he becomes one with this, who is a sakshi, who is a samasta sakshim, who is a witness of all, because we call him Shivarupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. He says Shiva, everybody is a witness of all, and which is Tamasah Parastat, which is beyond the ignorance, it is beyond the Maya, because Maya is ashrit on the Ishvara, and Brahma has no relation whatsoever with ignorance or Ajnana, because Brahma is the supreme divinity or supreme self. So with this way, the next shloka says, Sa Brahma Sa Shiva Sa Indra Sokshara Parama Swarat Sa Eva Vishnu Sa Prana Sa Kalogni Sa Chandramaha. So here the Virat Swarupa or the Vishwarup Swarupa of the Lord is being described, and also some of them Nirguna and Saguna Swarupa is also described. Essentially wants to make us see Brahma everywhere, Sarvatra Brahma Darshana, Sarvatra Sama Darshana, because Brahma is also same as Sama. Sa Brahma Sa Shiva, that is Brahma, that is Shiva, that is Indra. Sa Akshara Paramaswarat, that is the imperishable Brahma, the supreme Parama, and the Swarat, the self-effulgent, radiant Swarat. So that is the Nirguna Tattva, but it manifests in different forms. In some form it is seen as Brahma, in some form as Vishnu, Mahesha, Indra, all these different devatas, but beyond this, the Brahma Tattva, the imperishable, the supreme Tattva is the same. Sometimes it manifests as Vishnu, sometimes it manifests as Prana of all, and Kala, the time, Kala Chakra, Agni, and the moon, Chandrama. So all in different manifestations of the same, imperishable self, which is the Brahma Tattva, which is behind all these manifestations. It is one. Sa eva sarvam yad bhutam yad chapavyam sanatanam Vinatva tam mrityu matyeti nanya pantha vimuktaye. So here it says, eva sarvam, whatever we see here in this universe, everything, all the manifestations are nothing but the same manifestation of the same imperishable Brahma, the Brahma. Yat bhutam yat bhavya sanatanam, which was in the past, which will be then in the future, and which is also in the present. So which is trakala abhadita, it is because it is nitya. And the same tattva, gnatva tam mrityu matyeti. Only by knowing this eternal tattva, we can transcend mortality. There is no other way to understand that we are not these mortal bodies, but we are that immortal self, that tattva, atma tattva, which is beyond and which pervades everything. Nanya pantha vimuktaye means there is no other means for liberation. There is only one way for liberation. Nanya pantha vimuktaye essentially means that there is no alternative to atma jnana. After all the sadhana, atma jnana is the only way for liberation. I am atma, to know that my own atma is nothing but the sarvavyapak Brahma. My aham brahmasmi, meaning that the Jeev and the Brahma are the same. How they are the same? By the Chaitanya Tattva, they are the same. Though they have, the Jeev is limited in knowledge, limited in his powers. Ishvara is unlimited in his knowledge and powers. But beyond all this, the Tattva, that form that gives the Adhisthana, or this is support, which gives the Satta and the Spurti to all these forms and names, is the one Tattva, which is the Brahma Tattva. So the knowing is important. Knowing my own self, knowing myself, knowing the Brahma Tattva, and knowing the oneness of the Jeev and the Brahma is important. And that's like a final stroke, the winning stroke for Mukti, because to win the match, all the players have to play well, but finally the winning stroke is the Jnana, which will lead us to that ultimate goal of Mukti or Moksha or liberation. Sarva bhutastam sarva bhutani chatmani sampashyan brahma paramam yati nanyena hetuna. So here again, the real nature of the Atman, the oneness, is described. Sarva sampashyan, clearly knowing and seeing. What should be the vision? Sarva bhutastha atmanam, that I am the Atma in all the beings. So I am the same Atma in all the beings. It's not that I have different as I manifest as different Atma in different beings. I am the Atma of this body, but not only that, I am the Atma of all the beings. And this, all the beings, Atma is also not different. It is the same Atma which is there in all the beings. So this is the understanding Sarva Bhutastha Atmanam. The second understanding is Sarva Bhutani Cha Atmani. Sarva Bhutani Cha Atmani means saying that all the beings are in this Atman. So initially the first we saw that in all these beings there is Atma, and now we have to see that Atma is Sarva Vyapaka and all the beings are within this Atma. So that is the next level of understanding that we need to have, and this we can have only by seeing that Brahma Paramam Yati. We can attain that supreme Brahma by having this kind of understanding. And again re-emphasizes as na anyana hetuna, means there is no other means of this knowledge. The only knowledge is Atma Jnana, is the only way to achieve this moksha. And finally, in the last shloka of this session, the example of Arani Manthan is given, how we can achieve this knowledge, how we can achieve this understanding, this vision of seeing oneness in everything. So a beautiful example of Arani Manthan has been given, that we have to do some abhyasa, some practice of this knowledge. Jnana abhyasa is necessary, and this here Arani Manthan was the ancient way or mechanism to ignite fire during mantra. So what was done was that this was two pieces of wood were tied to each other by a central rod which was called danda, and there are two Aranis, one is the upper Arani, one is the lower Arani, and then they constantly keep rotating on each other so as to constantly have a friction between the two pieces of the wood, so that there are some sparks which are created, because there was no fire, there was no electricity, there was no coal, there was nothing. So the fire was created for the yagna, the fire was created from the wood. So these sparks were then gently accepted in the wool, and then it was then from this this was then transferred to the yagna vedi, where the fire in the yagna was created. So this requires constant efforts. This requires a lot of awareness, because whenever there are sparks, one has to take the wool and then ignite the fire in the yagna. And for this, and of course there is a lot of respect, reverence. This entire was a ritual in our Vedic era. This was called Arani Manthana, and of course it has now become Lupta, it has now become gone. But this was the thing that this example is given, how we can attain this knowledge of the Atma Jnana, the Brahma Jnana, by this example of Arani Manthan. Atma namaranim krutva pranavam chottaranim jnana nirmatanabhyasat pasham dahati panditaha. So he says, this we can do this knowledge or Jnana Sadhana by the Omkara, Pranava. Pranava can be used for this Jnana Sadhana, and compares this to the ritual of igniting fire by Arani Manthana. Atmanam Aranim Krutva, by making the mind as a lower Arani, and by making the Omkara or Pranava as the upper Arani. So two pieces of rod, Omkara and the mind, and constantly ratana or friction of these two nirmatana, abhyasa, by continuous practice, nididhyasana, during churning of the manana and of the knowledge which as we have heard during our Shravana. And so this is called the Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. This kind of a constant practice is necessary, so that the wise person, the Pandita, who becomes wise, who becomes enlightened by this knowledge, he burns down all the bondages. Pasham Dahati Pandita. So all these bondages was actually because of Ajnana. It was a Bhranti, it was an illusion. And when the Jnana happens by this kind of a knowledge, study or constant practice of Jnana Abhyasa, the Jnana Sadhana, by Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, constantly. And this is a beautiful example of Arani Manthan has been given. So only that is the way that all the bondages, can be destroyed, and one can attain the immortality, one can attain the liberation, one can attain the mukti at the end. So with this, we come to the end of the first session. The next session, there are many beautiful subjects about Maya, about Moha, about how Jagrata, Swapna, Sushupti, three avastha, our daily experience, and how we can understand this Atma Swarupa based on our routine daily experience. We will talk in the second session in more details. about how the world came into existence and why people cannot understand their own self. What is that Maya? How does it work? What is the Moha? How does it work, so that we are not able to understand this Atma Jnana or this knowledge? So we end with the Shanti part. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunuyam Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshavirya Jatraha Sthirairangaihi Stushtuvan Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuh Swasti na Indro Vruktashavaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarksho arishtanemi Swasti no bruhaspatir dadatu Om Shanti 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 Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Om Shanti Shanti Shanti